Hey everyone, welcome to the Geo Curator Community Call for April 6th. Great to be back after last week. A few of us were at ECC, which was really lovely being with folks in the Ethereum community, but very excited to be back. Um, we have some great news from last week. We finally launched Geo News. So very excited for that. For th folks that haven't checked it out yet, it's a really great news aggregator where we're posting right now news stories across our currently live spaces, which is crypto, AI, world affairs, and health. And we got a really good response from that. So very excited to have that out there. Of course, that creates a good incentive for us to be curating the data for those stories and improving things as we go. Right now, it's heavily AI automated, which does a really great job, but it's not 100%. And so I think that's a big uh, opportunity, for curators to go in and find anything that can be improved or fixed and do that. I think people are still very important to have as part of this process, and by doing that, um, we can make sure that the content is always correct and accurate. And so we will be looking for those types of contributions. I think from like an absolute number of changes perspective, it's probably going to be fewer changes than someone would make if they were like bulk adding 100 entities or something. But in many ways, it's even more valuable. Finding an inaccuracy or something like that and fixing it is incredibly valuable, even if it's, one, two, or three small changes. Um, it makes a big difference, and so we'll be looking for those types of contributions, and there will definitely be points assigned for things like that. So please keep an eye on the news stories and the relevant data, everything that's on Geo News of course, is published to Geo, and you can browse it through GeoGenesis like any other data, and you can fix things there. So very exciting update. Why don't we get an update from Arturis on some of the most recent contributions? Will be great to take a look at that. And then let's get an update from Preston on some of the latest features that have come in the last week. He posted a great update, I think, on Friday for product improvements. And then the plan for today is to leave 30 minutes for a full kind of discussion, getting feedback from curators. Now that we are almost 2 months in, we published the leaderboard, and we've gotten a good amount of experience now with things. There was some discussion in the Discord over the weekend, and we want to make sure that we can have open conversation to discuss what's working, what can be improved, and so we'll leave plenty of time for that. So let's start just kind of looking back, Arturis, if there are any contributions from the last week that you think might be worth highlighting.
Yes. So, a few quick updates. In the last couple of weeks, we are consolidating all of the bounty data to the front pages of each space. So that's one thing. And for example, so in AI space, if we go to, let's say, a topic in the front page, transformers, we would see the papers that were added through the papers bounty. We would see some of the projects related to that from the projects bounties. So sort of consolidation is happening where we can start to browse the data that's being submitted by the bounties. And one other quick note for the curators, we did some work on the ontology sections. So now for any of the types that you see in the ontology section, if you, let's say, click on the type itself, you will, yeah, just...
Yeah, actually,
We got to,
I think so. Right now, we're having some issues with the API, so it'll be better to not browse around too much. We should have that fixed very shortly.
okay. So we do see here. So for any of the types, we would have a list of all entities of that type. So that's sort of helpful to see what we have for each type. That works for all spaces, for all ontology tabs. Now, for the data contributions, so we're really starting to see some serious output from our top curators that we're highlighting. For example, Kevin's work. So he gave us an update as he does every week on the community call. He's working on the drugs database, and he has multiple sources for that. And this is a great work to see. So first of all, on the ontology section, he has a whole ontology set up for just for his bounty. And he managed to set up an ontology that allows to interconnect data across multiple sources where he is gathering the drugs. So we have a couple of sources where he is gathering the list from. And here we see an example. So these are some of the drugs that he was working on. And so brand names, we have multiple ingredients, precise ingredients. Same for, so these are the specific list for the precise ingredients. He's first he sort of did like a whole structure outside of Geo, but now he's starting to publish content, which is what we are asking for the curators to do. You know, even if the bounty is a large scope, having an update on Geo through the community call with like some of your data is a really good way to go about it. Because real time, we will review your data and give feedback, propose ontology needs, and agree on the next steps. So this is a great example. Ontology is basically fully set up, and just more of the data is going to be coming in. But this is an example of a good contribution in the health space. The other content, so this is by Maxime, that's in the AI space, and we have 200 research papers submitted for the AI space. Each research paper has a image, which is great. Basically, we have a and he made those images himself, like, right? So he like used LLM to like create us a unified, nice aesthetics, sort of consistent aesthetics here. Each paper has some information about it. We have the citation counts, source to the original paper, topics for classification. So that's a good bounty. And there are some other ideas we have where to go from here, but this is a great contribution. Then we have top 20 health behavior interventions in the health space. So this is also cool. So here we have the health behavior interventions, and here we have the health behaviors. So for example, if we have tobacco use, sleep behavior, dietary behavior, so all of these different behaviors, and then for them, we have specific interventions that are in the medical field, sort of are understood as like official intervention of what can be done to address some of these behaviors. And for each of those, they're listed. So I'd say this is a great, like first level data sets that we can then build on top and sort of see, like what kind of interventions are proposed maybe by like different sources on the same topic, etc. But this is a great data set, and also they're interconnected, which is really good. So we have relational properties, it's connected to each other, also intervention categories. So there is categorization done. So there are education, counseling, peer support, so that's an interesting way like to organize them, and we'll be able to maybe compare them by effectiveness, etc. So that's a good bounty progress there. Then we have real world asset protocols. So some data here. This is for the crypto space. We have some native assets, team members for some, topics for organization, and descriptions. So it's a good one. And this one so far seems to me like I would say I clicked around for this one, and this seemed to me the most complete out of any that I've seen so far. So deep in projects, and we have a bunch of projects that are added. For each, we have avatars, LinkedIn products offered for each of them. We have provided services. We have the team members, topics for classification and links. Let's see if in case it would load. Yeah. So even for every member I'm clicking, I see like a bunch of data roles worked at their work experience, current works at, X profiles. For each person that I was clicking around, I see this information, like a very complete data set. So those are some of the highlights from the curators from the last week.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, really great update. So that's looking fantastic. So great job. All the curators have published this really strong content over the last week. It's looking good. All right, Preston, how are things on the product side?
Things are good. In the last week, we got delete entity fixed. So if you go to an entity and here, let me pull it up. Click on the here, let's go to one of these. Oh wow. Sorry. Um, Click on something and then kind of come up here. You should see if you go into edit mode, you'll see delete entity on all of the entities, which will delete all the content from that entity. We also have move to space, which allows you to move this entire entity to another space. So that will delete it in the current space and create it in another space. So for instance, if a topic was created in the wrong space and you wanted to move it to another one, this makes that easy. We're also going to be creating convert to space as well. So if you go to a topic, for example, like the exercise topic, and you wanted to convert that into its own space, that will enable that. We also did a few things to fix the import data so it's a bit faster. Um, Other than that, I don't think there was other big consumer facing updates to make. Let me just double check. The update, but yeah, I think I talked about commenting last week, so you should be able to comment on entities as well. Just to remind, I will show that quickly. Um, but so any entity you go to, you'll have comments at the bottom, so you can actually comment and leave discussion there. So we're going to be adding that feature into the curators app, so you guys can actually move some of the discussion we have around bounties out of the curator app and into or out of Discord and into the curator app, so we can have a bit more persistence for that data. So I think those are the big consumer facing features to kind of bring up here today.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah, great work on the product side. All right. So why don't we now shift to discussion around feedback and how we want to handle managing curators and bounties and all of these sorts of things. Um, I'll give just a brief intro and then I'll kind of open up the floor and then we'll kind of discuss some things that and changes we might want to make. Um, so the way I would describe kind of some of the feedback that we've gotten is that some folks feel like they have not been getting enough help and feedback on the bounties that they're working on, that they're seeing slow turnarounds, that uh, that's been kind of slowing them down. And uh, I think that's kind of probably the general type of feedback that we've been getting from some people. Some stats I think for right now is we have about 300 curators that are somewhat active, some more than others. We launched the leaderboard about a week ago, and we can see where people are standing there. And I would say the amount of contributions is certainly not even across the board. We're seeing points ranging from 8,000 down to a few hundred and below. Props to all of the top curators here. Um, I will say that I think that is pretty expected. I think Geo is a very, knowledge and skill heavy kind of protocol. And, some people are going to be better at doing this type of work, will dedicate more time, and we really want this to be a system where, the more work you do, the better you do it, the more you get rewarded. Um, but and it's also a heavily governance oriented protocol, right? Where we have our spaces and we have our editors. Um, that are helping to organize and own the quality of the spaces. Now there are a few things that I'll just say from a structural level, but then I want to open the floor for direct feedback from people. Um, so I do think that part of what we're seeing, is the fact that right now we have a relatively small number of editors, and we just kind of open the gates to, 300 simultaneous curators that are all coming in with different levels. And so, that really created a very specific type of workload. Um, but as we're kind of bootstrapping, I think, over time we'll be able to add more participants and the knowledge will be more distributed, and we really want this to be kind of a peer-to-peer, right, open kind of protocol. And so I think, these are some growing pains, but there's a lot that we can do to improve. So yeah, we'd love to open up the floor for anybody with feedback, observations, thoughts, suggestions, and let's just kind of have a discussion. So please raise your hand, and I will call on you if you raise your hand. Does anybody want to go first? All right, we've got Deanie here. Deanie, please take it away.
Okay. Hey everyone, how are you doing? So based on the feedback we've been getting from curators in the past week, I suggested in the Discord channel that we can probably have like a middle layer, which is the reviewers, which are probably high-level curators who are subject experts, so they can help to review the work of probably newer curators and the editors, because I know the editors probably have other tasks at hand before the curator program. So they can maybe focus more on those tasks, and the reviewers would help to review the curator's work. And then when it has gotten to a probably on 99% readiness, then they can signal to the editor to um, accept their edit proposals. So I also, but it was antagonized in the group in the Discord. So, and someone also suggested that we can probably just promote some characters to editor roles. But my argument was that it would have been done that way. But I think the um, okay, someone suggested that high level characters that know well about the subjects, that they can just do their stuff and publish and propose the edits. But I was like, I don't think Geo wants to do that yet, because they're not quite confident about what people post yet. So that's why they are like that's why the process is like that, for editors to go through the work before, and when it is refined, then they can now propose the edit. Also, another issue is the weekends in Geo, like, is almost dead in Geo. Sometimes I would have work ongoing work, and then I would probably want to reach out to some of the editors or the Discord channel. But most times the weekends are always dead. I think that's just the issue. Weekends are always dead. They are, but it's not anybody's fault. Of course, people need to rest. But I think there are some creators that probably work during the weekends more than the weekdays, and they may require attention. So I think something can be done on that also to improve the interactions during the weekends. Thank you very much. I think that's my stuff. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah, thanks for sharing that feedback. Um, so yeah, I think the idea of having the reviewers I think is interesting, open question whether it makes sense to have separate roles or what, but I think, the key insight there is that having, more people that are empowered to help others is really useful. And I think that's a great kind of observation there. Also an interesting question on weekends as well. I do think that yeah, some people need rest, but it's true that people want to work on the weekends, and it'll be interesting. I don't know if thinking through shifts or these sorts of things, so that some people are available on weekends. Maybe it's not editors, maybe it's other folks, but that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Yeah, good feedback all around. Thank you. Uh, Akwai, do you want to go next?
Yes, I think so. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I think I want to bring up a proposal. Like most of the applications that were made by some curators, we haven't received feedback because some of us we actually know the subject matter. So let's say we can have a kind of I think maybe an improvement on the dashboard. Like, okay, bounties can be sent, or when curators apply for those bounties, they have their expertise in the field that they're applying. So maybe a chance can be given for them, to get those bounties done. And so like some can actually be editors in it. Like this will actually help, to move the work forward and how the review process is being done. I think that's my own proposal that I have. Like for me, I'm an expertise in the medical field and research. So that's it. Like, thank you.
Thank you. And it does bring an interesting question. I don't know if the answer is more roles potentially or how to kind of think about this. But I think an observation here is there's really two types of expertise that I think are very central for geo. And that's kind of domain experts and then like ontology experts, if you will. And I think those are different skills, and I think they're both important, and we want to empower both types of people. And I think what you somewhat need is the combination of both to be able to, organize knowledge in the knowledge graph effectively. Um, and so, when it comes to creating types and properties, maybe that's more of an ontology expert. When it comes to the data itself, that's mostly the domain expert. And yeah, but I think in general, having more editors over time will certainly help alleviate the pressure. And I think that's part of what we want to do is to foster and develop folks so we can have more editors. So yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you. Levon,
Thank
would you
you
like to
too.
go next?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Right. Well, my feedback is not about I wanted some bounty, I didn't get it, or I get it. It's about different that I stated on the Discord previously, and I spoke with Arturas on the AI space call, and he explained me everything quite properly. It was really helpful for me. And the question, the first person where I said that he sometimes going to the curators pages on the geospace and there is nothing happening and these kind of things. Yes, I can agree with him because sometimes on the geo, I noticed a few things like. Having the feeling that they're feeling like very selective. Some curators are a bit punished for some mistake that other curators are getting like 150% of the points of the bounty. Uh, so these kind of things that makes me think like where can I grow? Where can I get some updates? Where to whom should I ask? Or where should I search things that I want to know? Like I had a conversation, I'll give you the example. I had a conversation previously on the AI space about the type of organization. It appears that there is work about some type that should replace the type organization and should be deleted some kind of related types to organization. But these updates we didn't have. So I basically spent my time to create this type on my space, then to allocate to the entity, and I just took a bounty or a previous bounty as an example. I created all from the start on MySpace just to see how it look. It's still on MySpace, but it appears that I just wasted my time because someone decided that no, we need something different and we will work about it. But I didn't know that someone is working on about it, so I wouldn't waste my time on it. Well, it's not just a waste; it's just a practice as well. But on the Geo browser, we have very good link, the curators. Let me read it. Yes, it's about Geo Curator program. So it's written how the description should be, how the entity should be. It's about the capitalization of the entities, like where capital letters. I for last week I have a question like this. Do we still need this page? Should everyone should still follow this what's written there, or it's just the old one? So we just ignore it and let's continue. There's some different things because I've seen lots of entities, lots of description with many mistakes, but has been accepted on the proposal and been allocated with 150% of the points. So somewhere I'm getting lost. Where should I look? Where should I search? Where should I grow? That's the bit question got, I think. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And let me answer just that question. And you provided some great points. So on that specifically, so we made a decision. I think we started with, a pretty strict style guide. And I think that's still the best source, and we should point people to it. I think that's really useful. I think we kind of came to the, conclusion that we need to start onboarding people, and we want people to start gaining experience, and through that experience they'll get better and better. And so I think we kind of lowered our strict requirements for publishing content to Geo for right now, under the belief that it's actually not too hard to update things once it's been published. And so we want it to be a little bit more permissive, get people comfortable publishing their first content, and we'll fix things up as we go. So I do think for something like this, I think that's a good place to start. And as we get a great cohort of people who know the rules and can kind of help each other out, maybe we fix things as we go, and over time we hold ourselves to those standards. So does that sound reasonable?
Well, yes, of course. I'm more than happy, for example, to help the other people as well on the Discord. And I don't know if you've seen that there was a couple of curators as well. I tried to give my feedback if it was helpful for them. I don't know, but
Thank you.
yeah,
It's always worth pointing out when we see those sorts of things, and it might become repetitive at some point, but as we grow, there
yeah, of
might be
course.
people that haven't seen it. So I think it's always worthwhile to provide that type of feedback. It's very appreciated.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That was my question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so that kind of brings up something Levon didn't ask directly, but I think is worth kind of bringing into the conversation now. I was very happy to see over the last week folks like Levon and others start to really help other people with feedback, and I think this is one of the biggest changes that I would like to see. Is up until now, I think that maybe there was a bit of expectations that it was your editor or your mentor that was going to, provide all of your feedback and help you get your content into shape. Um, I think that was a good starting point, but this is really, it's a decentralized network. And I think it's going to be really important that people are helping each other, that we're doing it in public channels, that we're posting things, we're getting feedback, and that we really view this as kind of a peer-to-peer thing versus like there's like the team and then everyone else or something like that. So I think we're going to be monitoring for those types of contributions and for folks that are being helpful. Maybe we'll get more sophisticated over time with automating to make sure that we can really spot all of the contributions and help that the people are giving each other. But yeah, really want to state that we see a lot of value in that. We want to allocate points based on that, and generally, folks helping each other in the public channels is a great way, one, to specifically answer people's questions and help them get their content to a good place, and also to reduce the editors being the bottleneck on that sort of thing. And so Would love to see more people helping each other. What we've already seen has been really awesome, and hope to see much more of that. And please feel empowered to step in. And so really the change there is to ask the questions in the public channels, and then for people to help each other out. And I think that'll make a really big difference in our community. Cool. Mark Coppola, you want to go next? All right, looks like
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
there we go. Yes, we can.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for letting us to some about feedbacks. So I've been here for 3 weeks, and also thanks for leaderboard. But nevertheless, I think leaderboard may not reflect the actual situation, because I've been trying to complete my bounty for 3 weeks, but I haven't been able to do it despite my motivation, because I received only 3 sentences of feedback, 3 sentences in 3 weeks. Yet on leaderboard, I see other people completing their bounties. So I have 2 suggestions. The first one is fragmented feedback creates delay and inefficiency, but a single comprehensive round of feedback would save time for both curator and editors. And it might also help to establish maybe clear guidelines for editors, outlining expectations around feedback quality and response timelines. So also, after sharing my work in the Help Discord channel, as you suggested, Yannick, I received huge and structured 2 rounds of feedback from Levan in just 2 days. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Levan. And the amount of that feedback I received there was significantly higher than that I've been getting through the current review process. As I said, only 3 sentences in 3 weeks. So it can affect on motivation. Yeah, and this is my feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think there's a few things that we can discuss based on that. But I hear your feedback and thank you for sharing it. Okay, so let's kind of discuss some of these things. So I think we've been operating now for the last kind of 2 months, and I think what we've seen is, and I think this can be kind of expected from any points program in crypto Web3, is you get a pretty wide range of levels of contributions, and it becomes work for the editors to try to sift and filter and prioritize their time, right? Because there's only so many hours in the day, and so they have to allocate their time somehow. I think that probably what's happened is, pretty quickly there was a group of people that maybe, established themselves and, did really impressive work, and they kind of demonstrated their abilities. And I think, editors probably started to focus more of their time towards those people. And there were probably some group of people that maybe got kind of lumped into a category of that received less time from the editors. And I'm not sure, right now, who would be, kind of in each of those categories. It sounds like you're probably doing great work. But I think that's kind of a reality and something that we need to kind of figure out as a community how we want to handle these sorts of things. And so essentially, I think the fundamental issue that I think we're running into, and I think there's kind of no way around it, is that knowledge work is a creative process and it takes a lot of time and energy and attention. Um, and we kind of have this tension between an open system that anyone can participate in and the need to provide quality controls and time management. And so I think we're going to be improving our processes around this. I think we can do a lot better. And I think, over time, we'll build great systems around this. But we need to have some patience while we kind of figure this out. It sounds like, so yeah, getting 3 sentences over several weeks, that's not a great kind of amount of feedback, 100%, right? I think, when somebody's coming in and is ready and willing to contribute and is motivated, we want to make sure that they're able to get the support they need to be able to participate to the best of their abilities. So that is for sure the goal. I think part of why that may be difficult to do is, while there are hundreds of curators and maybe not all of them are at a high level of quality in terms of their contributions, many of them may need, an outsized amount of help and hand-holding to get productive. That comes at the expense of spending time with folks that can contribute at a higher level. And so I think that the reality is, we're going to be kind of building and setting the culture for how we manage this sort of stuff. And maybe this is around the time that we need to start to get a little bit more explicit so that people know what they should expect and what good looks like. And we can also self-manage a little bit based on an understanding of that. And so I think that one of the things that's going to allow us to do this is we are going to need to start applying some kind of quality filter, for the editor's time. And so far, we haven't really done that. Right? We've paired everybody with everybody. We've said, okay, everybody gets a mentor, everybody's going to get help. But the reality is, we're just not going to have the resources for everybody to have a mentor who's able to coach them with a high SLA. Right? That would be very expensive, and we don't have the resources for that. And so I think, up until now, what we've probably done is if we haven't seen indications that somebody's contributing at a high enough level, basically we've told editors, feel free to spend less time with folks that you haven't seen indication that they're contributing at a high level, and focus your time on people who are demonstrating an ability to do that. And I actually think it's important that they're able to do that. That doesn't mean that they've always gotten it right. Right. And so I think what we need to figure out is how to give people more tools so that they can prove themselves, so that editors and other folks will kind of be able to see, okay, who should I spend more time with to help coach? Because the reality is they're not going to be able to do it with everyone all of the time. Does that make sense as being kind of the fundamental challenge that we need to try to resolve? And does anybody have any thoughts on that? So I see a hand up from AZ. Would you like to share some thoughts on that?
Hi there. I've got some observations as well, and would like to share it with you.
Yes, please.
First of all, I think that the process of submission, the bounties, and the submission process lacks some transparency. Each work is submitted via Discord, and nobody knows how many work did you do. Nobody knows what projects are you working right now on, what kind of feedback are you receiving, how long did you wait for the feedback, and you don't know anything actually. So, for example, for me, it was like 3 weeks. I was waiting for the feedback, and right now I'm just waiting. I didn't receive. I just received one comment, and then I immediately made my job and provided like the the corrections, but I'm still waiting for it. So actually, I don't know when will I receive it, and I think that the issue of deadlines and some timelines for the review is very crucial right now. And the second issue. So basically, the transparency is missing, and the deadlines is also crucial. So these are two issues that I would share.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great feedback. I have to be honest that the process of doing these kind of private submissions is something that we just kind of did, you know, as we were getting ready to launch the curator program, that decision was made. Um, that's not some like core mechanism that we think is core to the protocol and needs to work that way. And I hear you that probably that needs to be changed and updated sooner rather than later. We have a bunch of proposed designs for the submission process. And I would love to get some feedback from folks to kind of see, how you feel about the different options. Um, so one thing that I'm kind of hearing, so when you say that you feel it lacks transparency, it makes me think that, maybe it's better that more of this stuff is done in public, right? And I guess that's what, to me, the word transparency is really that people should be able to see and it should be public. So, I think partially what we wanted was a way for people to really be able to get feedback before publishing large amounts of content, right? So that we're not kind of polluting the knowledge graph beforehand. But would folks feel comfortable and does it feel to you guys to be more correct that like that whole process of publishing, getting feedback, iterating, and then basically publishing the final content to mainnet, that should all happen kind of in public, and then more people would be able to see if somebody was getting stuck and not getting answers and things like that. Would that help?
I think it can be done in some kind of levels. So first level, you don't need to publish it to anyone, but only for this level who is who is engaged in this level. And afterwards, when after the process of reiteration and so on, it goes to another one. So I think it can be automated.
Okay. Yeah, that's great feedback. So this is an area we know that there's big opportunities for improvement. We're going to be dedicating resources on the product side to change kind of the publishing and review process. So you can expect updates here, over the coming weeks. And yeah, that's really great feedback. Thank you. So I'm curious if anyone has any feedback and comments on this point that I made around essentially, ways for people to kind of prove themselves, to get kind of more of editors' times, right? Because hopefully, I mean, you can understand that if you've got a few hundred people that are sending you questions, and recognizing that there is a range and kind of people's abilities, and so. There could be, 30 people that are very high potential that are doing great quality work. And then, an editor might have, 30 people that are not doing work at the same quality. And they're still demanding maybe even more time from people. So, I mean, how do you guys think the editors should deal with that kind of situation? And I guess the trick, right, is you never really know who's in what category. It could be that somebody actually is very high potential, but maybe they just wrote like a quick message or something, and it's hard to tell, or maybe they made a few mistakes, but actually they're super high potential. Or it could just be, on like we should expect that there's probably some level of Sybils and bots and folks that maybe don't have the necessary background, who again are still very demanding. So somehow editors need to try to make an assessment of which category somebody is in so that they can, put their time in the most effective place. So not hearing suggestions quite yet. Can leave the floor open a little longer, but I think, that's maybe a little bit of empathy for and a little understanding for kind of some of the challenges that we have that we need to work through. Understanding that, we haven't gotten it all perfect and there's a lot of room for improvement. But that's part of what we need to deal with. So I think, a few things that I would kind of say on that. One is I think we are going to start to be a little bit more strict on kind of inclusion in the points program because I think there have probably been, some folks on that side that are demanding a lot of time and it's lower quality contributions. And at some point, we're going to need to apply a filter. We have said in the past that we are going to be disqualifying folks that we think are civil, that it's really important to have trust and we want real kind of identities. So there's going to be tooling that we put in place to try to catch those sorts of things. And and so there is going to be a filter applied at some point, potentially soon, so that we can, cut off some number of, participants to make space for all of the participants that are doing great quality work and aren't getting the as much time as maybe they could. Because yeah, the editors are here to help, right? We're all here to help, and we want to make sure that we can dedicate those resources in the best place. Um, so we'll be sharing more comms around that, but I think one thing that we just need to understand in Geo as a whole is, right, we want this to be as open of a process as we can that really anyone, anywhere in the world can participate in. But at the same time, we have to be realistic that there will actually be a gate and a filter. And if people are demanding more time than the quality of their contributions, they might end up on this side of the filter. And we need to figure out what that looks like. Right now we're still across some different tools. We're on Zoom, we're on Discord, we're on these different things. Um, but at some point we might actually remove some accounts from Discord. Um, if they're taking too much out of the editor's time without contributing value. And so keep an eye out for that. And maybe once we do something like that, then again, I think we'll see better response times. We'll see, more time from editors able to help folks. So that's something that we're going to be doing at some point. At the same time, I want to make sure that anyone who really wants to contribute feels like they have a path to do that. But I think the way that that needs to look is a bit of a prove yourself before you expect to get something, right? And I think that's something we need to be clear with our expectations is, you know, um, the editors, there's no like right to get work in a sense, right? It's this is a voluntary peer-to-peer, decentralized network. And everybody wakes up every day saying, hey, how can I provide the most impact? How can I help the network the most? Hopefully, right? If we have a good culture, everybody wants to be of service. Everyone wants to do the best work they can. And it's really up to the curators of people coming in to convince people that it's worth spending time, right? And you do that by demonstrating ability. And so we want to have more and more things that people can do to do that. What are some examples? I mean, one, participate in Discord, right? Have quality conversations, and people will get to know how you think and contribute in conversations. And so, one thing that I honestly can't understand is somebody who would feel like an editor, must and should spend time allocating a bounty, helping them with like all of these things, but that person hasn't spent any time in the Discord. So, if somebody out there is wanting more bounties, I would say the first thing is, hey, have you been active in the Discord? Have you had quality conversations about things? That's a great place to start. And it's not a lot to ask. And I think that, people will get to know you. Another thing, join the community calls, right? So if anyone, wants more feedback from folks, and I guess the next question I would ask is, have you joined the community calls? Have you participated in those community calls? Because that's another great way that editors can get to know you and be like, okay, this is someone, I should be spending more time with them. A third thing is, publishing content to your personal space. And maybe we need to have better tools so people can see that. But, when an editor is looking at a contributor, probably one of the first things they do is they go to their profile, they try to get a sense for the person, have they been able to publish stuff that's interesting? And I think even just publishing content to your personal space can be a really great way to kind of show, hey, look, I know how to organize things, I know how to structure them, I can create content, and it could be about anything, right? Because it's your personal space. So organize your interests, organize whatever. So hopefully, like, these are the types of things where we want to kind of set the expectations that, folks can kind of demonstrate their abilities. And as they do that, they will get more time from editors and from other experts and people that want to help. Does that make sense as something from like a cultural level that we think is reasonable to ask in order to, expect to get, time from other folks?
Can I add a quick note there?
Sure.
I think yes, it's a one big aspect of submitting bounties and participating is working with a mentor. However, I think we can actually alleviate a large part of problems that the curators are facing in terms of the needed feedback with maybe directing them more to the documentation that we have available and also expanding on that documentation. So, for example, we have got some feedback from Marco Polo today, which thanks Marco Polo for the feedback there. And about like the response. So I'm looking at the health in your questions in the health space, right? And so I see a few feedback that you got from Lavan. So naming and formatting, use sentence case, avoid capitalizing every word, and use full organization names, right? Then user relation properties when possible, and use the required bounty schema, sort of the properties that we have. All of that is actually in our documentations on how to do it, how to publish the data. We are actually have the listed on the bounty on the content standards. So I would say maybe us like setting up a system where it's a bit easier maybe to navigate and find these things, and we can sort of promote that a little bit more. Basically, I see that probably 80% of that entire conversation on health Discord could have been avoided by checking in that.
That's fine. We're coming up on time. I think just what I would say to that is, so I think Lavan's feedback there was spot on. I think there are tools we can use maybe even AI, like you're saying, like, training it on the docs to basically what we need to do is continue to automate work that can be automated so that everybody's time can be spent kind of at a higher level, right? Providing more useful, like strategic kind of stuff. So there's a lot of improvements we can make on the tooling side. That said, I think it's a great start, right, for other curators to be helping other curators pointing things out. I think that's really fantastic. But okay, I know we're kind of getting up to time here. I think this is a great start to the discussion. I think there's a lot of improvements that we can be making, to the product, to the tooling, to the systems, to help make sure that things aren't falling through the cracks. One thing that we didn't add today is project management. And I'd mentioned this over the weekend. It is something I would love to do, is to have public project management boards where, we can be taking in feedback, we can be assigning tasks to people, and we can see who's working on what. And that'll make it easier for us to see if, because I saw there were definitely examples of great questions that went unanswered. And that's not great, right? So I want to acknowledge that. And I think, better project management can make sure that, there's ownership and, okay, somebody asked a great question there, let's assign it to this person and we make sure that it gets answered within a reasonable amount of time. So I think there's improvements like that that we should be making. We'll be chatting more about them as we go. So really great feedback on that side. Um, and yeah, in general, what I want to say is, thank you for everybody for your patience as, we're early in the network's development. We have a lot of product work that we're doing, and we're really thankful to everyone who's, maintained motivation, showing up every day, doing great work, while I know that there are still plenty of things that can be improved. Hopefully today added a little bit of color into, some of the challenges that we're facing and the sorts of things that we need to figure out how to really do good time allocation. And yeah, we'll be working with everyone over the next, several weeks to implement some changes and make things better there. So I think the last maybe takeaway before we wrap up for the day is this is a decentralized network. It's peer-to-peer. I think at this point, the fact that there are so many people that understand the mission and the vision and want to contribute to that, we're just very grateful and excited to see that. We want to empower everybody to do their best work. And so, continue to share your feedback. We'll iterate on solutions. This is not something where, everybody should just be, waiting for the team, to do things, but, please feel empowered to contribute. We'll try to empower you to the best of your abilities. And I think it's going to be a really exciting few weeks and months ahead as we polish these things and get ready for the next level of scale. This is why we haven't scaled this thing up yet, right? We recognize that there's some polish that we need to do with the initial cohort. We're very thankful to you all for being part of that initial cohort that can help us get this stuff to a nice polished state before we scale it up and grow to the next level. So yeah, thank you everyone for your great work. And excited to carry on the conversation in Discord and have a really great week. Thanks everyone.
A lot. Have a good
Bye.
week.